Washington Post political reporter Ed O'Keefe is joining us from D.C. So, Ed, the Clinton campaign was supportive during Director Comey's decision this summer to not pursue a case against her. But now they're questioning his credibility, although she herself has just simply asked that they release more information. But what do you make of the response now to go after Comey?
I suppose it's not surprising because the shoe's on the other foot. Things were reversed over the summer. Republicans were crying foul. Democrats were thrilled with the decision. The inverse is true now, although I'll note that, there are a fair number of conservatives out there who've raised concerns that perhaps Comey overplayed his hand, especially speaking out before there was a warrant and an understanding of what was really in these emails. But one of the things I wonder about is, should we get to a point where she wins the election and Comey is still head of the FBI director, what does this make for her relationship with Comey and the FBI? Remember that the FBI director gets to serve a 10-year term. He's in the early part of that and would presumably stick around through the entire first 4 years at least of a Clinton presidency. It could make things pretty awkward. But in the short term, they're clearly concerned about this. They're trying to put pressure on the FBI to release more information. And frankly, the Democrats I've talked to see this as a motivating factor for their base. It may compel a lot more people to show up and show their support for her in the closing days.
There's a lot to parse in what you said there, Ed. I'm actually intrigued, and I'm happy you're pointing out that there are a number of Republicans who have also said, wait, we don't understand what Director Comey is doing. In fact, just in the early hours after he sent that letter to members of Congress, I noted from Senator John Cornyn, he's the Senate Majority Whip. He tweeted out right away, and I'm looking at the time here, it was 1:44, so not even 45 minutes or so after that letter went out to Congress, he just tweeted, why is FBI doing this just 11 days before the election? So as you point out, it's not just her folks and Democrats saying that this is strange. You've got people, former attorney generals, Gonzalez and Holder, also sort of questioning why the director is doing that. But you point out the second thing I think is really interesting is this may motivate her base because they were in danger of being complacent.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone needed an excuse who was being complacent, I suppose this is it. And the Clinton folks are certainly doing what they can to remind people this is why they now need to turn out. Regards to Cornyn, though, I believe, Vlad, at one point there was a follow-up a few minutes after that tweet where he said, why is the FBI doing this if they don't have something significant? I think was basically what his follow-up tweet was. So, which is another point that people have made, that Comey wouldn't feel compelled to do this if they didn't think something significant could be there. And, he was really damned if he does and damned if he doesn't in this situation. He opted for transparency, and we'll see. But, the early polling so far from you guys, from us in our daily tracking poll, suggests that this isn't necessarily moving opinion of Clinton against her. Where we may perhaps ultimately see this having more of an effect is down the ballot. Let's say you're someone who was sort of holding your nose and voting for Clinton and preparing to vote for the Democratic congressional candidate in your district or your state. Well, maybe now you think that given that she's got this problem still, perhaps there needs to be a Republican counterweight, and Republicans may not do as poorly as they are forecast to do in the Senate and House races. Right.
And so, I note that there's a new Washington Post ABC News poll out that shows Hillary Clinton just 1 point ahead of Donald Trump among likely voters. But she made the point on Friday, and I wonder if this is just wishful thinking or if the numbers bear this out. And I think you seem to be suggesting the latter, which is that people have already decided what they're going to do if you're a Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton supporter. And what she seemed to be indicating is that this is already baked in. They've been talking about her emails for quite some time now.
Right. And I think part of the reason also that we've seen Republicans speak out about this, look, they're seeing the same polling data we are. They obviously are able to do some private polling as well. But I think for them also it's a motivating factor. This may now compel Republicans who were resigned to this being over to get off the couch and go, hey, now we have to make sure there's a Republican Congress. Or maybe we do have to vote for Donald Trump because we don't want her to be there causing, legal issues to cloud the presidency for the next 4 years. So I think you're seeing a little bit of that on both sides, especially because so many Republicans went out over their skis and said the whole thing's being reopened, which is not the case. There's just a new development, and the FBI is trying to figure out whether it does need to really reinvigorate and restart this investigation. So a bit of politics going on with about 8 days to go.
And,
shocker.
Well, yeah, exactly. Shocker. October. Surprise. So Trump's campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway, says that the FBI investigation into her emails is not going to be the centerpiece this final week. Is that a smart move for Donald Trump to not capitalize on this surprise? And more importantly, I guess, do you and other people who cover politics really believe that?
Well, look, every day he's out there, every hour he's speaking, he's making mention of the fact that, as he puts it, Clinton is the most corrupt presidential candidate ever and probably shouldn't be allowed to run. He has been saying that since even before Friday's revelation. So the idea that it's not the centerpiece is true, because it's something that's built into everything he says out on the stump. I think what they're trying to do here in the last few days is to gin up Republican support where they can find it. I know there were a lot of people scratching their heads over the weekend about the fact that he spent time in New Mexico and Colorado and isn't on to Michigan. In none of those states is he leading, but Republicans seem to think that perhaps with Friday's news and with a late surge of Republican support, they can at least get it closer. Bottom line, Trump has fewer paths to 270 electoral votes. Clinton has more of them. He's clearly trying to open up another one, potentially, should things go south for him early in the evening on election night.
And final question, Ed. I wonder if this sort of has gotten buried over the last couple of days because of this really serious investigation into Hillary Clinton's email server. The fact that David Fahrenthold at the Washington Post has been doing some incredible reporting, and he had a very big piece which details the number of charities that the Washington Post has called because Donald Trump on the campaign trail has suggested that he's given tens of billions of dollars away to these charities, and something like only one of them says that they've actually gotten any money. What's the deal with that?
Well, what this is essentially a real summary of the months of reporting that David has been doing. I know that because he sits only a few desks away from me, and I've seen the notebook and the pen that he's been using to keep track. And in essence, what it finds is that, yes, in dozens, if not hundreds of cases, foundations and charities that said that they, or that Trump said he had donated to, either haven't received the full money or there were some questionable ways about which it happened. And I think that, plus the context of him vowing to spend $100 million when at this point he's only spent about $60 million and change on his own campaign, is evidence of the fact that he says one thing and he does another when it comes to his money. And, we'll see if he can come up with a way to spend $40 million in the next 7.5 days. If he can, good for him. Wouldn't we all like to have that kind of money at our disposal? But this is just, again, a good summary and roundup of all of the instances where he allegedly was giving money and, in fact, he may not have, or it wasn't the complete picture. It's worth a read.
Absolutely. Ed O'Keefe, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.